Hi, we're the Lindsays, and we just moved to Idaho. We found our perfect Idaho.
Why did you choose to move to Idaho?
Well, I got disheartened to where we lived. I just kind of felt like it was changing, and I kind of didn't fit in anymore. And I thought, I don't want to spend the rest of my life, not being happy where I'm at. And so I started looking around, and we looked at the deserts, we looked in the mountains, we looked all over the place, and I came to the realization there was really nowhere that there was always a problem. It was either too humid, too hot, too this, too that. So I just kind of gave up. And then a buddy of mine helped somebody move to Idaho, and I'm like, or Boise, Idaho, and I'm like, Boise, Idaho? Isn't that like, way, way in the snow belt over there and somewhere horrible? And he goes, no, it's actually a real nice place. And I'm like, I'm going to check it out. So I got on my phone and I started Googling Boise, and I saw some videos, and they showed drones flying down over the river and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. So I
We
talked
found
to
some really educational videos too, didn't
yeah,
we?
and so well, and then I was getting to that. So then so I talked to my friends, and I'm like, hey, we got to check this Boise place out. And they go, well, actually, we saw a video from a guy on YouTube, Dave Edwards, and you should check him out. So we sat down and watched the video, and it went through the weather, economics, jobs, housing.
Comparing
He went
things
through.
that meant a lot to us too at the time. Just
Yeah, 'cause we didn't know. We had no idea. We didn't know what we didn't know, and so that kind of got us
yeah.
comfortable enough to say, hey, let's schedule a trip down here. So we came dead of winter, middle of January. Figured let's go see it when it's cold. If it's cold, let's see what it is, and if it's too cold, then we're done. So we came down here middle of January, and sun was out, and it was it wasn't. I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't cold. And we thought, wow, this is nice. And we looked at some houses over in Star, and we really liked them there, and we just became open to it. So we thought, well, let's come and check out all the seasons, and then maybe we'll end up there. And then COVID hit, and then everything kind of changed. And then one day I got a phone call saying, hey, you really need to come up here. There's a few lots left up here in Upper Cartwright Ranch, and if you want one, you better get here now. And I just happened to be coming the next day with my daughter. Just came up, went right up there, and sure enough, man, the place was buzzing, and we got in there and FaceTimed her, picked a lot, and did it all in one day, and so happy we did. It's the best move I ever made, and I think for my family and for my wife and just for peace of mind. And I always said I want a place that has some serenity, and I tell you, I totally feel serenity here, and I didn't feel it where I came from, and I didn't really see it anywhere else that I wanted to go. So that's kind of how we went from point A to point B, and now we're really, really happy here. I feel very safe here. I go downtown. I don't see a bunch of questionable people that I got to sit there and watch and worry about my wife and kids. I can relax the whole time. I don't feel that element around here. I've seen maybe one or two sketchy people the whole time I've been here. Where I get off the plane in California, and the first guy I see is sketchy. And not maybe not that bad, but that's how I feel. And just I feel like you can just take your family down there for a nice evening, relax, and you don't have to worry about anything. And that's a nice
Yeah.
that's a nice feeling.
How did Treasure Valley Dave help you get home?
When we found ourselves looking and doing some research on Idaho. It's great because if you go online, there's lots of great videos and resources to kind of educate yourself on what different areas of Idaho might look like and be like. And so some people have put out some really great videos on that. We started watching and came across some videos by Dave, and he had done some sort of seminars and sort of explaining and doing a side-by-side comparison of different things and some of those things really resonated with us in terms of like the job markets and the housing markets and different types of things that just kind of resonated with us. And something that was kind of interesting that came out of that too was seeing other families from different, so we're from Ventura County, California, and seeing different families in different situations, and some people move here and they're married, and some people move here and they're retired, and some people move here and they're not, and so everything, everybody has a unique story and a unique situation, and it's nice to see that he's, kind of, locked arms with different people and help them make certain transitions, and so it is helpful, I think, to watch what other people's experiences are, because you can relate to certain things, and certain things will speak to you. And I hope that, if anybody watches this, maybe this will speak to them and kind of answer some questions that they might have one day.
I mean, after watching the videos, I just thought that he would be a good starting point. But I also thought that, hey, I don't know this guy, and if he works out, that's fine. If he doesn't, I'll look for somebody else. But Dave took all the time with us. He drove us around. I mean, he would have spent all week with us if we asked him to. Anyway, Dave, Dave, I got to say a lot about Dave. Dave, he always drops what he's doing when I call and addresses my problems. One, number two, he's just such an easygoing guy, and I think that on both sides of the transactions or whatever you're doing, it helps because it's easy for me to deal with, and I'm sure he's easy for the other folks to deal with. So, that's a huge advantage that I think that Dave brings to the table. And three, Dave's from California. Dave understands what we're going through, and he's helped us along the way with many, many different aspects of it. So, we saw the video of Dave, and everything he said, everything he presented in that video is totally true, and even then some. And I'm very happy that we were able to work with Dave twice, and he's still helping us because we're still building the house. But yeah, very happy with David. I think he's a good dude.
And I really appreciate how communicative he is, and I feel like everybody that works alongside him sort of shares that same philosophy and just tries to make everything for you as seamless and as low stress and so transparent, and just really makes it just kind of an enjoyable process. It's just been, buying a house can be really stressful, and going through sort of some of the, the things you have to walk through can, that's a lot of it is way over our heads. It's not what we do. So, it's nice that you have something that just says, don't worry. This is how it's going to happen. And this is what we do. And
you kind of feel like your priority, where you don't feel like you're taking this time away from something else. I mean, I remember I told him one time, he goes, hey, I'm right in the middle of doing a walkthrough on a house. Let me get through this. I'll call you back in like 20, 30 minutes. Call me back in 20, 30 minutes. He helped me address the problem. Then Steven here, he goes up and checks our lot out for us and keeps us entertained with our weekly movies and of our lot. And what's nice is he's a way better filmer than we are, so we send those to our friends, and so they're able to get a much better idea of what's going on than what we can provide them.
That's
so
true.
That is so true. So, very happy, and I think if we hadn't watched that video and saw it found Dave that way, we would have probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. And most people, it's like they get the sale and then they're off for the next person, and you're no longer a priority. And
no,
never changed.
No.
Never changed. It didn't change from when we first showed up here to the time we bought our second house from him. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Same guy all the way through. That's kind of that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's just really nice.
Yeah, and I'm sure down the road, whether we buy a house from him or not, I could ask Dave for anything, and he'd help me out.
Yeah.
And he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, and resources to different things. We've asked him for some resources and about, renting or different things. He's put us in contact with.
What's your favorite thing about Idaho?
When we go downtown, we really just love the fact that you can walk around this really cool kind of happening place where there's bars and restaurants and just so much to see and so much to kind of experience down there in a very safe, clean, easy to navigate sort of a way. I mean, it's as dressy or as casual kind of as you want it to be, but it's really neat. And we've gone to some awesome restaurants. Our first trip here, we accidentally stumbled upon this really cool place. Barbacoa turns out to be one of my favorite restaurants, but it came from a recommendation of somebody that worked at a store we visited, and we strolled in there and kind of were amazed by the food and the service and everything. So now whenever anybody comes to town, we're like, we have a place to take you. But
we use that as a test case. We walk in and says, hey, we're from California, and we're waiting to see what comes back, and they're like, oh, great, California, wow, yeah, he's from California, I'm from California. What are you doing here? I go, oh, we're just checking it out. And he goes, well, hey, you need to go here, here, and here. My brother works here, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. These are nice people. I come from a place that's very heavily taxed, and you don't know where any of the tax money's going. Here, I pay much, much less taxes, and there's all this stuff going on where here's all your dollars at work, and you're like, how did this happen? Because I'm used to completely the opposite, where they just suck every penny out of you, and you get nothing in return. So I'm like...
Oh, wow. What was the biggest surprise we moved here when we had to register our cars?
Yeah. My truck was 819 in California. It was 125 with the added fees of transferring it over and a park pass.
So we knew that it was going to be a big difference when we watched one of Dave's videos, and he had talked about specifically those kinds
those
of
are the kind of things,
He
yeah.
compared gas prices and car registrations and different
Utilities
insurances,
and-
yes,
yeah.
all those different things. But I'll tell you what, in the middle of winter, when you are running your heat nonstop 24/7 and your gas bill is like
$80.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
running the air conditioning in the summer, literally, we've never done this before.
And it was
Round
the
the clock
hottest, like it was
nonstop.
like 100-year heat. And we
Yeah.
ran it and ran it and ran it. It was like $120, but I mean that thing was going 24 hours a day constantly.
Yeah.
And we
Nonstop.
like it kind of cool, so we were, that thing was working hard.
And no rolling blackouts and no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It was really nice. One thing that I really was surprised about that I hadn't really anticipated is how different seasons really feel. And how one day I just woke up, the days were a little longer, there were buds on the trees, tulips just popped up, and you just got the sense that coming out of winter, something had changed. And you knew it was exciting, and you knew something cool was in store. But because we had never really experienced a spring here before, coming out of winter and going into spring was really exciting. And it was just, and then when it went into summertime and just how that felt and how, and the other thing that surprised me kind of falls into that, how the community here does so many things for us to just enjoy, just to show up, and there's a concert and there's rides for the kid, or things for the kids to do, and face painting and food and music and just community just coming together. And it didn't matter, it wasn't anything political or anything, it was just come be a part of this. There's parades and there's events and there's constantly something going on, and that's what summer brought out. All of a sudden it became summer, and we saw some of the most fun-filled, family-friendly, all-age, right?
Yeah, and also, I mean, this place does such a great job with the parks and the trails, and I mean, it's like it's set up for you to go out there and enjoy the outdoors, which is something that I never experienced before. And I really appreciate it. And it kind of blows my mind because I never even thought that communities cared enough to do that. And I know there's been like large donations to some of these parks, and some families have donated a lot of land and stuff. And it's pretty amazing because, where I come from, you have a little park here, you get a little thing there, and that's kind of it. Here, it's like these big giant parks with the rivers and the hills, and it's just amazing. And really, really appreciate that.
What advice do you have for someone moving to Idaho?
So some of the best advice that we got was actually from a Facebook group. So I know there's a really good Treasure Valley Dave Facebook group. So that was a really great place to get some information from people. I would definitely invest in a really good quality mover, and you can ask for advice about get a good quality mover.
Good point.
Purge. One thing the piece of advice that we got on a Facebook group like that is to get rid of as much as possible. Get involved in whatever you are into. We found an awesome church. There are so many amazing churches here. The wealth of talent as well in musicians and for local music. If you're a music
Even
person,
the worship at the church, the whole
at our
thing is
church.
unbelievable.
There's tons of local live music everywhere. Get involved in things in your community. If you are on social media, but there's ways to find things that are going on in the county, and there's so many things to do. Just plug into different things that
Can
are.
I add to that?
Yeah.
And also too, the communities are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go to Eagle, as compared to Meridian, as compared to Boise. I mean, so I would highly recommend either spending a lot of time here visiting, or maybe coming here and renting, and just getting a feel for the area, and then getting exactly the spot you want. Because, there's some areas that are probably better if you have young children. There's some areas that are probably better if you're older. I mean, so I would just figure out the lay of the land one way or another. Either several visits, or coming up here renting for a while, like we did. It actually turned out to be a blessing because we kind of learned everything about the area, and we found out where we wanted to spend our time, where we didn't really care to spend our time, and where we where we really liked. And we ended up buying this house in Hidden Springs because through the process we learned how much we loved it up here. And now we're here with 2 houses in Hidden Springs, so we're so happy that we figured it all out.
Some friends of ours did a wise thing too, and I did think that this was kind of smart. If you can get up here and spend a little bit of time, either by multiple trips or just kind of focus on different areas, because it can get a little confusing when you first get here and you're just traipsing around the entire Treasure Valley. Things are a blur and kind of a whirlwind. So I think planning trips where you kind of focusing on certain areas might be helpful, because then you can kind of really see, because Boise is so the diversity just in the city itself and from one end to the other is so different. And then if you spend some time closer to the foothills and you explore different areas, but kind of really familiarize yourself with certain pockets of the valley, because then you'll kind of really see what the restaurants are like, what the lifestyle is like, what
Shopping, the entertainment. Do you like to be around people? Do you want a more open space? Do you mind having busier roads? You want to be on the country roads? I mean, it's all here.
I mean, you have to figure out what works best for you. And if you don't mind driving a little bit, then maybe you thought you wanted to live in, everybody hears Meridian and they think that's the only place to live. It's so funny. Everybody talks about that, but Kuna's amazing. And if you're not somebody that minds a little bit more of a drive, it's a beautiful area. Nampa, Caldwell, Middleton, there's all these places that are super up and coming. And if you experience them, kind of, you see what they're about, there's so much here. There's so many different areas. Here's the disclaimer. For me, moving in at the beginning of it, really, we fell into winter when we moved here. And so it was a little bit of an adjustment moving in when, there's not really a lot of hanging out outdoors, just meeting your neighbors, because it was cold at the time, but we made it through that first few months, just kind of experiencing different restaurants and finding little things to do and meeting a few people here and there.
Well, it was tough. It was cold, we were new, and there was COVID.
Right.
So that's three strikes there.
The churches were not shut down. We still went to church. We still experienced being able to go to stores and out to eat and things like that. So that felt really, really nice. But the first few months, to be completely transparent, were not super easy. But fortunately, that's one of the things about the seasons is that they change. And so it was a short, in retrospect, it really was a short time. I started a new job. We started there was a lot of change. So one thing I would encourage people who move here or who move away, especially if you move here and you do move in the winter time, just know that it's cold. It's the days are it doesn't get dark as early here as it did back home. So it still stays light until like 5:30 at night, which is so nice. But be patient with yourself, give yourself grace. Know that really shortly you're going to see buds on the trees, things you hadn't really noticed before. Bam, pop up, the bulbs show up, and you just feel the difference. The days stay really, oh my goodness. Even in spring, the days are really long, and you just feel the sense of life, and all of a sudden your neighbors are out, people are out everywhere, biking and skating and walking and hiking and visiting and grilling and everything that you can imagine. It's just such a sense of life, and people are just so great. But the winter time moving here for us was a bit of a transition. Like he said, it was during sort of still this early on in the pandemic, and it was just it was definitely different. But just allow yourself grace. Know that spring is coming, and remember why you moved.
Treasure Valley Dave helped us get a home.